Hey guys, Dave Lee coming at you once again with a little bit of physical media news, 4K Blu-ray news. I didn't really want to script this one. I just kind of want to sit here and share my thoughts, my opinions, because this is pretty big news. I'd say it's sad news as well, but I can't say it's all that surprising news at that. This is something that I've kind of been predicting for a while, over the last few years even. I've kind of been saying that we could expect this to happen fairly imminently. I know a lot of people disagreed with me quite vehemently, which is good. I had a lot of discussions down in comments and stuff with people over this. I think a lot of people were a lot more optimistic than me, but someone who's been following trends in releases and stuff over the last 10 or 11 years, especially when we're talking about Disney, something just seemed a little bit off to me over the last, again, couple of years that I felt was leading to this point. Of course, we're talking about almost the eradication of the 4K Blu-ray format, which I think in some way will lead to a small phasing out of major physical media releases. I don't want to sound like a doomsday or anything, but this is a fairly worrying thing. We've had this pretty much all but confirmed. This comes from a report from Bill Hunt over at the Digital Bits, who is a really fantastic resource, a really well-respected resource when it comes to physical media, Blu-rays, DVDs, all that. And he has run this article just over this weekend. I'm going to read you a little bit of it just so you can understand what is going on. Bill says in his article, "Early last week I started to receive word from retail and industry sources that Disney had made an internal decision to suspend the 4K Ultra HD release of live-action catalogue titles from both their own vaults and those of their newly acquired 20th Century Fox label. In essence, my sources said, beyond new release theatrical titles, animated fare from Disney and Pixar, or Star Wars and Marvel-related projects, there were no plans at the studio going forward to release titles on physical 4K Ultra HD. Future releases would be 4K digital only." Bill goes on to say, "I've now checked with multiple reliable resources on the matter, and I have indeed been able to essentially confirm the rumour." Now, I can't say that this is all that surprising because Disney have been really weird with 4K ever since its first inception. Disney are usually right ahead of the game when it comes to anything in entertainment. Theatrical releases, home media releases, they're at the forefront. The other studios are usually following them, following their moves, because Disney is the big conglomerate that really helps prove what works and what doesn't. And the other studios usually follow. But Disney were actually quite late to pick up on 4K home media format, on the physical media format. It wasn't until 2017, a couple of years after 4K really came into being, that Disney actually released their first 4K title, which was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 back in August of 2017. So really only 3 years Disney have been in the 4K game. Not that 4K's really been around all that long on the physical media format. But that said, following these first few releases, Disney have been very strange with how they have been releasing 4K back catalogue. And by saying that, they really haven't released a whole lot outside of, again, what Bill said, the Marvel stuff, the Star Wars stuff, Pixar, and Disney Animation. Even Disney Animation has only received like a very few select titles on the 4K format. Now, over the last year or two, really last year and maybe a little bit of the year before, Disney were really heavy-handed with releasing stuff from, again, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They released all 20-odd films on 4K within the space of like 12 months. All the Star Wars films got reissued on 4K in the space of a day. They have released, again, a number of these Signature Collection titles came out on 4K, but only Renaissance period films, so stuff like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, 101 Dalmatians, which did receive signature releases around this same time, did not get picked up on the 4K format as well. They have also released a number of kind of post-Renaissance films like Tangled and Princess and the Frog, stuff like that. They released all 20-odd Pixar movies in the space of 12 months. There were like 2 or 3 big waves of Pixar movies. All of them came out on 4K. But as far as their live action back catalogue, the only ones they really released were Cinderella, Maleficent, and Beauty and the Beast as well. As far as any films outside of like the last 10 years or so, Disney have just not bothered to put out on 4K at all, which has been really worrying. It's been weird. It's been weird trends. Again, I've been following Disney's trends for the last like 10 or 11 years. One, Massive waves of titles. I've been saying ever since they first announced these like huge waves where they would bring out like 10 films on 4K in a day, which is like not financially feasible for most people to go out and just buy 10 4K titles at $30 US a pop. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. Disney usually don't do that. They usually stagger their releases over the space of like 7 to 10 years. But for them to release in the space of essentially 12 months, an entire back catalogue from Marvel, Pixar, and a bunch of animated things, like essentially 50, almost maybe 60 titles on 4K over the space of 12 months, was really weird. And what was also weird about it is that they never put out any press releases for any of these titles. Disney are usually heavy-handed with press releases, advertising the absolute hell out of their new releases, so you know what's coming out, you know what day it's coming out, they make a big deal out of it. No press releases, and none of these back catalogue titles actually went out to media for review. Now, I've been reviewing titles for Disney for the last couple of years now, and I usually get the new releases a couple of weeks before they actually come out so I can review them. These back catalogue titles, they did not send out to media at all. So I've kind of been thinking, things are just not quite right. Now, I reached out to one of my sources at Disney. I have a very good relationship with Disney in Australia and over in the US as well. I reached out to one of my sources, kind of just talking about physical media stuff, talking about how we can continue forward with me reviewing stuff, and how I can maybe offer like giveaways and stuff to my viewers, because I know people really love when I do the giveaways. Anyway, it was just kind of a casual conversation. They were at that point in-house kind of reassessing the way that they handle home media stuff. What gets released, how they handle advertising, media relations, all that kind of stuff. That was all sort of being reassessed. And that was probably maybe 6 months ago that I was talking to Disney about this. So for me, that was a little bit of a red flag that, hang on, something is going on behind the scenes. This whole physical media thing that I've been saying for a while now is probably on its way out. This was that big red flag for me that was like, okay, I'm actually getting confirmation here that there are big conversations happening behind the scenes. So this is a bit sad. Now, I do want to say, as Bill did stress in his article, this is strictly back catalogue for live action films. This does not mean that we're not going to get any more animated films on back catalogue. I personally think we probably won't get many, if any. Again, we've had signature titles come out on Blu-ray that weren't released on 4K. It was like the prime opportune moment to release those on 4K. They didn't do it. I feel like the signature line, there's been no official word that the signature line is dead and finished, but I feel like it is, because it's been nearly a year since our last release from the Signature Collection. They were supposed to release Jungle Book and Fantasia in the collection. That hasn't happened. They released the Jungle Book on 4K last Christmas, I believe, and they didn't release the Signature Collection of the animation alongside it, which would have been the perfect opportunity. Again, Disney were reissuing the live action remakes alongside the Signature Collections, and we didn't get that Signature Collection release. So I kind of feel like this might not just be a 4K thing, this might be a physical media in general thing where Disney are kind of being really picky and choosy about what they release now on physical media, what they reissue. So again, this is strictly talking about live action back catalogue, so like classic films and stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised again if this does affect the animation side, and this would explain why Disney were so heavy-handed with going, here's 20 Pixar films, here's 20 Marvel films, here's 10 Star Wars films within the space of essentially a year, alongside here's like 10 Disney animated back catalogue titles in the space of a year, when usually, again, Disney would stagger these things over 7 to 10 years. And I was saying the whole time that this was like Disney just trying to push everything out of the gate while they could, while they had that little window open there. And I think that this all happened just before Disney Plus. Since Disney Plus has launched, we've not really seen any back catalogue come out from Disney on the 4K or really even Blu-ray format. Now there is an exception to this. We do have 2 titles coming out, I believe this month, maybe next month, which is Hocus Pocus is being reissued on 4K, classic Disney film, or like cult classic Disney film from the 1990s, and also they are reissuing Home Alone, the very first Home Alone on 4K from the Fox back catalogue. But Bill mentions in the article that outside of these 2 releases that are coming out, which are again cult classics that people will go out and buy, there are no plans on Disney's slate to release any other back catalogue titles on 4K. Now this means we could be missing out on stuff like the Pirates of the Caribbean films on 4K. We could be missing out on stuff like Enchanted, which is a film that a lot of people have been really wanting to get on the format. Stuff like Tron Legacy, or even going back further, like stuff like Mary Poppins, the original Tron. You know, those kind of movies we might not see on this format, or by the sound of it, we won't see on this format. What this also means is that we won't be getting like classic Fox titles, 20th Century Fox titles, Sound of Music, the Planet of the Apes films. Movies like this will probably not get 4K reissues because they've decided to take their focus away from it. Now, what Bill is saying is that this doesn't mean we won't get these films in 4K, but the future 4K reissues of these films will be digital. And whether that does actually mean you can buy a digital copy through iTunes or Movies Anywhere or whatever, or it's strictly Disney Plus, we don't know just yet, but I kind of feel like that's the way it's probably going to go. They've got to reserve a lot of this stuff for that Disney Plus streaming service. And it is a bit sad again, because I would love to own a lot of these movies on 4K physical disc. But on the other hand, I do feel a little bit of relief, because I am always implored to go out and again, rebuy stuff. This is all stuff I had on Blu-ray. I was always implored to go out and just rebuy it and upgrade everything. I re-upgraded like essentially almost 60 films on 4K over like the last year or so from the Disney catalog, because I just wanted to upgrade the title and have that in my collection. Now with them going, well, we're not doing it anymore, or with this report coming out saying, well, they're not doing it anymore, I kind of feel like maybe it's a bit of relief that I don't have to keep going out and buying these movies and re-upgrading them and stuff. So it is a bit of a double-edged sword. Now, I hope this isn't the beginning of the end of 4K. Or physical media in general. I've said for a long time, I think physical media has it will always have a place, and whether that is big studio releases or you get the boutique labels just continuing, I think that's kind of the way it's going. Studios will start dropping out, and maybe this is the first sign of a big studio kind of pulling away from physical media. I feel like the studios will pull away and focus on their streaming services, while boutique labels like Criterion, Arrow, Eureka, Kino Lorber, or some of the Australian ones like Shock or Viavision, I believe that they'll kind of pick up a lot of the slack, and they already are. These are the labels that are re-releasing or issuing for the very first time a lot of back catalogue that hasn't even made it on Blu-ray in the first place, and where the studios have, over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, been very soft-handed on their catalogue releases. Now again, I do need to stress this only does apply to back catalogue, so I don't want to sound like a doomsdayer. Disney do apparently still have plans to release the new release films, but as far as reissuing classic titles on the 4K format, sounds like that's a no-go anymore. Now, some people may argue this has to do with the pandemic and everything that's going on at the moment. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe that has something to do with them crunching numbers and going, maybe it's not going to be viable into the future. But as I said, signs have been there for a very long time, and I feel like this is something that has been on the table for a while. But anyway, I want to know your thoughts. These are just my thoughts. And who knows, maybe in a couple of months' time they'll announce that they're releasing, you know, Mary Poppins on 4K or something like that. I don't think so, but I wouldn't be surprised, because Disney have been very unpredictable with home media over the last couple of years. And I think really what we just have to do is just sit and see what happens. But again, I want to know what you guys are thinking about this. Do you really care? Are you still collecting the physical media, or are you happy with Disney Plus now? Or are you, you know, sad, but like me, a little bit bittersweet maybe about the whole thing? Or do you just kind of feel like that this was an inevitable thing that was going to happen eventually? As always, fire away down in the comments below with those thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Until next time, guys, please continue to stay safe. Continue to stay at home. If you're somewhere like I am right now in Melbourne, where you're being told to stay at home, please do so if you can, and I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. If this is your first time viewing one of my videos and you'd like to see more like it in the future, then please don't forget to hit that big old subscribe button up on your screen, as well as that like button down below for that little extra support. Also, don't forget to check me out on social media, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic day.